Along with these actions, we are committed to changing our state law that underpins all of these efforts. Since 2010, reality has never matched the promise of the Compassionate Use Medical Marijuana Act. That reality will change. We are going to have a program that works for our residents and the laws that back it up. We are committed to working with our legislative partners to increase the monthly limit on the amount of product that can be purchased from 2 ounces to 4 ounces, as well as eliminating the limit for patients receiving hospice care. The late Jake Honig's parents, Janet and Mike and his sister Gianna, are here today, and when Jake was still alive, Dad and I had a conversation about this limitation, and we committed that we would look at it, but we believe we need a law change, and I recommit to that today. We will support legislation to allow patients to register at more than one treatment center, making it easier for them to obtain medical marijuana. We will also support amending the law to allow the use of edibles for adult residents with dexterity or other issues so they can recognize the benefits of the program. These reforms are just the beginning. There are many other measures that we will consider going forward, including the goal of home delivery, to ensure a program that provides the compassionate care that has been lacking for 8 years. As I said at the outset, we were one of the first states to legislatively make medical marijuana accessible to residents, thanks to the efforts at that time of Senator Nick Scuteri and Assemblyman Reed Gashora, who, by the way, is celebrating his birthday today, I might add. Amen. We recognized, Reed got a shout out. We recognize that patients should be treated as patients, not criminals. But sadly, we backed away from this promise after we made it. Today is the first step in restoring that promise. Aubrey, for you and for every family, many of whom are with us today, whose loved ones can benefit from medical marijuana. I am so proud that our administration is taking these steps. I've always said that we'll be guided by facts and science, not politics. I regret that it has taken 8 years and a change of administration for these changes to happen and for that simple principle to be restored. I thank you all for being here. It is now my honor to introduce Deputy Health Commissioner Jackie Cornell. Jackie, come on down. That's all right.
Thank you, Governor and Aubrey, for sharing your story. Governor, for your leadership here, and for all of you and your advocacy on this very important issue. I'm delighted to be with you today. In his last days, medicinal marijuana was the most important therapy that Jake the Tank Honig was getting. It allowed the 7-year-old to interact with his family in his final days of battling cancer. On his Facebook page, his mother wrote that he was able to say that he passed away painlessly and peacefully. After 9 years on opioids due to breaking her neck and back in a fall, 44-year-old Alexis Billings of South Amboy had limited quality of life. Using medicinal marijuana for the last year has enabled her to virtually eliminate opioids, lose 85 pounds, reduce her pain and stress levels, sleep better, and improve her overall health. United States Air Force veteran Don Kropotwich suffered for 34 years with migraines and graphic images of a plane crash that killed his military brothers during a training mission in Spain. Thanks to medicinal marijuana, his anxieties and nightmares are greatly diminished, allowing him to run his own business. The changes we are recommending in the medicinal marijuana program today are the product of meetings I've had with patients and their families, advocates, stakeholders, and leaders in the medicinal marijuana industry. Today is the beginning of a shift in a culture in the program, one from one of the most restrictive in the nation to one that expands access for patients and makes it easier for physicians and alternative treatment centers, or ATCs, to serve these patients. As the governor mentioned, we're adding a new set of medical conditions and reducing registration fees for patients in the program. We're also extending beyond these immediate efforts and initiating regulatory changes that will take some time. Finally, we're calling on the legislature to partner with us to make several changes in this 8-year-old law. As the governor said, a new assistant commissioner for the medicinal marijuana program, Jeff Brown, will oversee the changes we're outlining here today. He will report directly to me as part of the Commissioner's desire to elevate and better support this program. I've known Jeff for years, and he has the right qualifications for this job. He's worked in health policy, quality improvement, and government affairs for a number of nonprofit agencies throughout New Jersey over the years. And he's here today and officially starts with the department next week. I don't know where Jeff wound up, back in that corner.
There you go.
I want to say a special word of thanks to my executive assistant, Caitlin Wolford, and Sue Carson, the director of the medicinal marijuana program, who are in the back there, along with the staff, who worked tirelessly on this report. I'd also like to take a moment to review 3 areas where we're expanding access for patients, making it easier for physicians and ATCs to serve these patients. Here's how we're changing the program to benefit more patients directly. As the governor said, we've accepted the recommendations of the Medicinal Review Panel to add 5 new categories of debilitating medical conditions that qualify patients to participate in the program, and this begins today. They are anxiety, chronic pain related to musculoskeletal disorders, chronic pain of visceral origin, migraines, and Tourette syndrome. We've also made the program more affordable by cutting the patient and caregiver registration fees in half and adding veterans and seniors to those who qualify for the reduced fee of $20. And we will allow patients to have more than one caregiver registered to pick up their medicinal marijuana. Here's how physicians will have an easier time recommending medicinal marijuana as a therapy for their patients. We will eliminate the rule that requires physicians to be listed on the Find a Doctor registry on the department's website. The website will continue to be available for physicians who would like to publicize their availability and willingness to use medicinal marijuana, but the physician list will no longer be mandatory. And we will recommend to the legislature that it eliminates the stipulation that certain conditions be, quote, resistant to conventional therapy, end quote, in order to be considered a debilitating condition. As we have learned, sometimes medicinal marijuana is the best and most effective option up front. And here's how the program will be easier for the ATCs to serve these patients. The centers can apply for waivers immediately to open satellite dispensing locations. And we're proposing to amend the program rules to allow potential centers to specialize in one or more specific areas of the business, such as cultivating, manufacturing, or dispensing, without having to do all 3. We believe that this will add flexibility and specialization in the industry and ultimately improving access and supply for patients. The report that we provided to the governor, along with answers to frequently asked questions that may come of this report, will be available or are available currently on the department's medicinal marijuana webpage, which is nj.gov/health/medicinal marijuana. We've also created a new email for anyone with questions about the report. Questions can be emailed to mmpquestions@doh.nj.gov. The medicinal marijuana hotline is the number for current patients and caregivers. So if you have questions about today's report and the changes that we're proposing, we ask that you please use that new email address so that the hotline can remain free for those current patients in the program. We know that this report does not address every single issue that has been raised by stakeholders, but this is the beginning of an overhaul of a program that is very, very long overdue. Thank you so much for your time and being with us today. We look forward to working with you.
Jackie. Hey, Jackie, do you mind repeating one more time the number and the...
Sure, absolutely.
Jackie's going to repeat one more time the website and the number here.
Sure. So the website is nj.gov/health/medicinal marijuana. And the email address for questions regarding the report is mmpquestions@doh.nj.gov.
Thank you for that. I think we'll take a few questions, if that's okay with everybody. This is yours, Aubrey, right?
Yep.
I'll make sure that you're good there. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
You know, again, we typically are not going to talk about a particular piece of legislation, but there was a lot of good progress made. I think this report has pretty clearly come down on the side of enunciating explicitly what would allow you to have access to. But you could see also at the same time, and in the spirit of that proposed legislation, it's broadening this program out dramatically. I also would say, preempting perhaps another question folks might have, this isn't the end of history. So this is where we are today. I think it's fair to say, Jackie, we're going to roll this out and expand it as it is and color us open-minded as to what else we may want to tweak, including consideration of broadening it even further. Please.
Yes, the new condition 063, the petition is opiate use disorder. Is that one also going to be brought up?
At this time, no, right?
No, just the 5 that we listed.
No, but again, that's one that I personally have a passion about, and that's something that I'm not a medical expert, but I'm weighing in with my own view that needs to be considered. Michael.
A doctor presently has to be registered to participate in the program, and I think only 1 in 50 doctors in New Jersey are registered.
I'm not sure that's right, but it's a small fraction. I think that sounds about right.
Something about expanding that, making something optional, but I didn't understand.
Yep.
What the new rule.
Yep. So I'm going to give you my in layman's terms, and Jackie's going to tell you in the real terms. So the registry that you up until today, where you were required to be a part of, which a lot of doctors, due to the stigma associated with marijuana, were reluctant to be a part of. We're making that no longer mandatory. But but at the same time, there's a minimum requirement in the phrase. I don't know what the phrase is. A doctor needs to have the
Appropriate.
there's a medical term here that you.
So what will happen today is that the list online will go away. Doctors will still be in the registry, but they will not be on the list that's public unless they choose to be. So a lot of doctors had concerns that this was adding undue stigma to them. So we're doing away with the fact that they have to be listed on our website in order to be within the registry.
But it doesn't mean that you can just go to your doctor and any doctor can prescribe medical marijuana.
What are the not right now?
No.
That currently the law is not in that way. So that would be one of the regulatory legislative changes that we need.
Please.
Governor, the law that was passed 8 years ago, signed by Governor Corzine 2 years ago before he went out of office, called for allowing the expansion of the number of retail outlets.
Yep. The dispensaries.
Limited, if I recollect, after the 6 ATCs were put on.
Yep.
You talk about satellites, but what are you doing to encourage newer retail establishments that are not necessarily satellites, because people who think that this area needs a center?
Yeah. I mean, Jackie, you tell me if you have color on this. That first of all, I think this report is recommending that you could go from a nonprofit to a for-profit status. So that's one step, and I would think that would attract on its own a significant amount of interest in terms of expansion.
Can I ask Jackie,
Please.
the health department as private entrepreneurs, since your 6th center opens in Seacroft this spring?
Correct. So currently right now, the nonprofit status has to be changed by the legislature. So that is a recommendation that we're putting forward. To add new, as you're asking, new businesses, the department will be putting out guidelines about what that process will look like. We have listed in the report, I believe that we're aiming to have the entire process done within the year. So as you know, that this takes a significant amount of time to make happen, but we'll be issuing rulemaking on all of that.
Do you know if you'll be putting a quota on the number of retail outlets?
At this time, I can't say.
I don't know that we know an answer to
Yeah.
that. Yeah. By the way, some of these things I want to make sure that may take a while, but the list of maladies that allow you access to the program is effective today. Some, yes.
Follow on that, what you just said, increasing the list of maladies. I believe that's something like 18,000 patients right now. Something like
Correct.
that.
Correct.
It takes a while to grow this product. If you're going to make these conditions qualify immediately, you're going to have enough to meet the demand.
That's part of the reason why there's a recommendation to split up the food chain here, to allow the growing, the cultivation, the dispensing of this in this industry to decouple. And the answer is we will see. As I said, this isn't the end of history. We're making these changes today. You mentioned the number 18,000. I believe that is the number, by the way. I mentioned this, I believe, when we signed the executive order 2 months ago. Michigan came in after us. It's a similar size population. I think there are around 230-something thousand folks in their system. Arizona has 130-something thousand, and it's a much smaller state population-wise. So we will see. I mean, we're acknowledging that by wanting to break the food chain up and more aggressively push to make sure we have the right supply. Hold on, just somebody who has not asked yet, please.
The registration fees being cut in half, but New Jersey still has the most expensive medical marijuana in the country. So what's being done?
Well, you also heard that we're going to put seniors and veterans into the same category as disabled and other categories that are already allowed a lower fee. It's still expensive, but it's a lot less expensive today than it was yesterday. And our hope is to be able to continue to try to deliver this to as many folks who need it as possible. And if we need to tweak with the reality of the price point, then that's what we'll do. Others?
Would you consider allowing home growing for medical marijuana patients?
That is not part of the what I consider. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. That is not part of the recommendation today. Maybe one more. You know, my gut tells me, this is a personal opinion, that you want this properly regulated. You want it properly understood. You don't want folks, even if it's within, to their credit and for all the right reasons. My gut would be no, but that's a personal opinion. Maybe one more, please. It really doesn't change that reality, honestly. We had said that this was a life or death, or at least quality of life reality for too many. Aubrey was far more articulate about that than I can be. And so we wanted to get at this first. You heard in our budget address a couple of weeks ago that we're still committed to adult use recreational marijuana, to working with the legislature. This doesn't really impact that. This is a sort of a here and now health crisis. I'm still confident that we'll get to that, but it's not today's business. I want to thank everybody for coming. I particularly want to thank the families and patients and folks who are here with us today, and advocates. So thank you all, beginning with Aubrey and many others in the room. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really well done.
Thank you.
Jackie, well done. Don't leave us away.